Buongiorno. Do current world situations find you clenching your sphincter tighter than a skeeter's ass in a nosedive? At the Little Peanuts That Could, the podcast and the cartoon series, we think we have the answers and solutions to protecting and saving world democracies and our climate, and thus relaxing your uptight sphincter. Welcome to the relaunch of the Little Peanuts That Could podcast and cartoon series, including our sketch called Between the Two Peanuts, with my Swami, Ashfaq. We're currently relaunching our first 10 shows, plus the best of Swami Ashfaq's quotes, and the best of our funniest and hardest-hitting commercials.
And now, another one of our great commercials.
Howdy, folks. Governor Stonewall Young Kent, a.k.a. the Virginian of Virginia, where I'm riding herd on every Virginian, with and without a Virginian. I'm the man responsible for the Virginia is for Breeders campaign. Now, folks, I thought that campaign would rise me to the presidency.
Faster than Pastor Paul's vanilla fudge chucker rises at our pole dancing contest.
But now we got a problem. School shootings. And I prayed about it. And just as I did my grandson, Stonewall the 7th, he done fired off a clip from old Custard Guts here, and he damn near killed me. It was a message. God wanted me to launch the Snipers in Diapers, assault weapons training, and the Bible study.
Christian Kids Camp. Y'all best butter your biscuit and call me a butthole, 'cause there's a new sheriff in town.
Y'all come back now, yeah?
And now, the best breaking and broken news segments in the industry. Breaking news, folks. Italian-talking penis launches pod across world and announces plan to save democracy with George Clooney's tasty little penis. I don't know about you folks, but I gotta believe Brad Pitt and friends are gonna have some fun with this one. And now, let us introduce to you the Little Penis That Could podcast and cartoon series. Bon appetito, my friends. All the characters are from my dreams and should not be viewed by anyone. Buongiorno, Mr. Gorgeous George Clooney's. As you can see, I am reading my latest handwritten letter just for you. I wanted you to know that every night, when I go to bed and every morning I wake up, I have visions of your audaciously tasty, juicy, and nutritious little peanuts dancing around in my head. What you may not realize is that there are also famous, patriotic Americans portrayed as penis heads, and they are dancing with your little peanuts in my dreams. Now, as they dance, when they do this, they share messages for you through me, Dr. Gino Bartali, host of the Little Penis That Could podcast and the cartoon series. I would like to share some of their messages for you from them. Dr. Martin Luther King, he keeps telling me that you should give a speech from the Lincoln Memorial called I Have a Penis. I think that would be a pretty good speech, don't you? And the Teddy Roosevelt, he wants me to tell you to walk softly and carry a little penis. I thought that was kind of cute. But finally, I keep having the visions of a movie set from the Revolutionary War era. And Brad Pitt, he's playing the part of a Paul Revere. And he's racing across America on his horse. He's named Butters. As he does this, he's raising the hopes and aspirations of all Americans. who loved democracy while proclaiming at the top of his lungs, "The penis is coming. The penis is coming. Gorgeous George Clooney's audaciously tasty, juicy, and nutritious little penis is coming." Mr. Clooney's, please do not think that I am unaware of the magnitudes and unknown consequences of asking you to sell your little penis to save world democracies. You should know that I think I speak for the whole world as I repeat the words that I believe John F. Kennedy asked me to share with you. Ask not what the world and your nation can do for your penis, but rather ask what your penis can do for the free world and your country. Stay hungry, Mr. Clooney's, and share the penis. Ciao, Bella. Are you tired of satire without solutions? Comedy without cause? Here is our show Between the Two Penis with Dr. Gino Bartali and Maharishi Matthew on the how to save the world with gorgeous George Clooney's audaciously tasty, juicy, and nutritious little penis.
How will these international online democratic nations be created and function?
Maharishi Matthew, with all respect, that question, that is a question which can never be answered, but which must always be answered. The creation of international online democratic nations, the how of these creations, these nations, the answer is that they have been created, and yet we must create them. Maharishi Matthew, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, these are forms of international online nations. They have been created, yet they are but shadows or mirages of the potential of international online democratic nations. They are the mirages of united, self-determinate online entities, international online democratic nations. For despite that they are living in a relatively free online world, these entities like Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, they are ultimately controlled by their unelected and authoritarian leaders. Perhaps think of it like this, Maharishi Matthew. The dance or the battle between authoritarianisms and democracies, this is in essence the embodiment of the yin-yang dynamic of life. This dance between democracy and authoritarianisms, this is the same as the dance or the battle between truth and lies. As such, there is no answer, while at the same time, there is but one answer. We must embrace the opportunities and responsibilities of our online existence, or we grant dominion over our online existences, and thus we grant dominion over our reality-based lives. We grant this dominion to those in authority unless we choose to reject that. We must lead this dance or the authoritarian's will, Maharishi Matthew. Perhaps we must always think of democracies and self-determinations as evolutions. These evolutions, Maharishi Matthew, these are evolutions of dance steps and battle plans for democracy and self-determinations. These evolutions shall always be met by the evolution and the dance steps or battle plans of authoritarianisms and dominion. Because in today's world, the authoritarians are so united in both the real world and online. If we lovers of democracy wish to retain dominion over ourselves, we must not just unite online to dance with authoritarianisms. We, the lovers of democracy, we must choose the music to which we will dance with these authoritarians. We must no longer permit those seeking dominion over us to control the battlefield. We, the world's lovers of democracy, we must dictate the terms of these battles. We must dictate the dance steps and the music of freedom, democracy, and self-determinations. We must create new models which make the previous models obsolete. Maharishi Matthew, do you remember when you asked this question? If a business no longer requires a brick and mortar, does a nation require land and borders? Your question, this open-ended question, it calls upon us to define, or as a Buckminster Fuller would encourage, we are called upon to redefine democracy. We must redefine what a democratic nation is. And we must do this by building new models which make our corrupted models obsolete. So you ask the way, the how. This is very specific, and yet at the same time, very broad. First, we cast a bright light upon authoritarianism, like the conscripted youth and young men of Russia, unwillingly forced into war, a war against their neighbors, their friends, and their families. They are forced to fight in this terror attack upon their innocent neighbors, without food, without weapons, without clothing. Authoritarians and authoritarianisms, these are built upon sending their nation's youth into war. It is only now that we see it done, while instructing them to purchase tampons with their own money to plug their bullet holes when they are shot. These are the kinds of lights that we must shine upon authoritarianism. But now, we get to dance the dance of a freedom and self-determinations. Now we share a message of a hope and aspiration, the idea of a life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. We share this message with the women of the world, with the people of color of the world, and the indigenous peoples of the world, and with the LGBTQ of the world, and with the religiously oppressed of the world. And then finally, we write this story and we dance this dance while we join with the world's youth in the fight for free will and democracy for as many people as possible all across the world, each and every day. So you ask me, Maharishi Matthew, how do we get the world to join together and to funk up democracy? At the Little Penis That Could podcast and the cartoon series, we call upon gorgeous George Clooney to sell his audaciously tasty, juicy, and nutritious little penis of positivities for charities and to save world democracy. What say you, Maharishi Matthew? Today I would like to close our show with these thoughts. There is a saying in America, the best thing since the sliced breads. This refers to some monumental yet simple progression that we see in life. I did not fully understand the story behind the sliced breads until I watched a show called The Food That Built America. And in this show it tells the amazing history of the man who envisioned and created the sliced breads of the industrialized era. The man who created a new model, just as futurist Buckminster Fuller says is required for change. The man who built a new model that made the existing model obsolete. And he's got me thinking, I bet that at some time, some Stone Age man got drunk and said to his friends, someday there will be the sliced breads. And they all laughed at him. And they said, you're a fool. You see, because the technologies were not available. And without these technologies, without something they could touch and feel, they just did not see the future that these cavemen saw. So this got me to ask this question. Does anyone believe that at some point in time in the future, people from all across the world will unite online? That the women of the international world will unite? And the climate activists and indigenous peoples and the LGBTQ and the world's youth and the people of color. Does anyone really believe that they will not eventually take advantage of the internet to unite and create their own nations, to protect and to serve their communities? So, if this future is so likely or inevitable, why would we not want to be the ones that history forgets when people of the future say that is the best thing since Ion Nations? At the Little Penis That Could podcast and the cartoon series, we have provided links to a podcast from Australia. It's called Who's Going to Save Us? As well as a link to the food that built America, where you can be inspired as you watch the story of the sliced breads. Stay hungry, my friends. Ciao, Bella. And now, one of our great commercials about us, the Little Penis That Could, the podcast and the cartoon series, and our prank or plan to get millions of you all across the world to unite online for democracy, climate, women's rights, human rights, racial and LGBTQ rights, and the right of young people all across the world to actually be active effing participants in our world's economies, societies, and governments. Oh, and while we're at it, let's all unite and apply the needed economic, social, and political pressures to bring an end to the war in Ukraine. I mean, isn't that the very basic, decent, pro-democratic thing that all of us should feel compelled to do? To unite online and thank Ukraine as we help them by ending their war and using their nation and others across the world to relaunch our modern world in a new democratic direction. Look, we're dead serious. We hope you'll join us, and let's all do this by pranking gorgeous George Clooney into selling his tasty little penis for charities and to save the world. Bon appetito, Brad Pitt.
Buongiorno. Do world events have you concerned? Do you find yourself clenching your sphincter tighter than a skeeter's ass in a nosedive? My name is Dr. Gino Bartale, and this is my Swami, Ashafak. Visit the Little Penis That Could, the podcast and the cartoon series, and catch our new shows every Thursday, where we think we can funk up democracies. If you enjoy our shows and mission, please support our Patreon. Grazie.